So we were back at the Vesica Pisces in the little bump inside the back of the mouth. And what that does is it goes up to the thalamus glands. And when you're massaging that, it begins to fire alpha like crazy in all four quadrants. You could take a long time to learn how to fire that much alpha, but when you're on top of that spot, the alpha's going crazy. If you move off the spot just a tiny bit, the alpha goes down to almost nothing. Alpha is essential for higher spirituality, higher consciousness. You do not have a choice in this. You have to be able to fire alpha at a certain level and relatively balanced across the four quadrants. If you can't proceed. It's just the way it is. And alpha, by the way, what it is, one single word is joy. Children are filled with it. Their baby's just one big alpha machine. And teenagers too, all the way up through there. They've got lots of alpha being fired out. But as you get older, the alpha starts dropping at 25 and 30. And by the time you're 40 and 50, it's way down. By the time you're in your 70s and 80s, the alpha's just probably gone away. And then you start entering into theta, and eventually you enter into delta, and you die. And alpha is a key, though. You can learn how to, even if you're old and you're not firing an alpha, you can learn how to redo it and change your age very quickly in 1 week, about 15 years. It puts back your life, and it changes everything. But it's essential for meditation and for what we're doing. And this is partly the reason why some people have to do it for so long to be able to figure it out. Now, they didn't know this. Like the Hindus and the Tibetans that are teaching this don't know anything about the alpha. That's not their... They know what to do, but they don't know actually what's actually going on these kind of levels. And this has really helped. Dr. Hart came to a workshop I gave near Quebec once, and he's been studying this for 45 years or something. And he used to work for the government for a long time. And then one time, many years ago, when the government realized what alpha was, they made it illegal to study it all over the whole world because it makes people superhuman if you really know where it leads to. And so they just shut it down all over the world. No alpha research. But, of course, the governments secretly keep right on going. And he was in the government program, and they kept right on going, studying the alpha research. And then when it became legal again, he came back out on his own and started studying. He started studying meditators all over the world. And at this point, they've mapped every single level of consciousness known to man. They've got maps of it, and they can take you in through any level of consciousness you want and actually experience it. You can become a paranoid schizophrenic if you want. You can do anything you want. They can show you exactly how to experience what another person is experiencing. And so it's not just an idea or a theory or something, but you can actually experience it. And so you can take them into any level of meditation also that would normally take many, many years. He can get you in there in a few days and just into anything. And but I didn't know who he was when he came in, and he's a very eccentric person. He wears kind of like white suits and pink shirts with blue ties, and he's got red hair that goes out like this. He looks like Willy Wonka in the chocolate factory. I mean, he's a nice guy, and he's a very serious person, but he's just eccentric on his own side. But he came and he just he wanted to study what I was doing. I didn't know that he was studying me while I'm talking, and so he pulls a couch up right in the front. He pulls a couch from the other room, drags it all up, and gets it right there, and lays down. I says, okay. And he went through this whole procedure. This is what they do. He's got a team of people that go around all over the world and study with everybody from Sai Baba to, to all different people. And they learn what they're doing, and they get into the practice, and then they go back to their equipment, and they've got equipment that doesn't exist anywhere on earth but with him, and that he's made. And they put gold electrodes all over your entire head. Big trunk of these things come out, plugs into a wall, and behind the wall is $1.5 million worth of this computer stuff and a team of experts that can operate all this stuff and read it. And from there, within probably less than a minute, they know everything about you, absolutely everything. Precisely what mapping you have and what your situation is, and from there, they can begin to lead you through different levels of higher consciousness. It's just that it's so expensive. That's the only thing, because it costs them $8,500 just in 7 days just to process one person, and so it's $15,000 just to be able to go through this training for 7 days. But 7 days of this training is equal to 20 or 30 years of meditation. So it depends on if you got the money. It's really worth it. If you don't have the money, then I don't know. But it's expensive. That's the only problem. Dr. James Hart, if you want to know more about him, you can go on to, he's got a website called BioCybernaut. Like an astronaut, only he is a BioCybernaut. So he's going through inner space inside the brain, and he leads you through all these other worlds that are inside of you. If for some reason you are interested in this, let me know, because he's very interested in anyone that I send to him. Here's why. When he was sitting on there, he went through all the procedures, did everything we're doing here. He learned how to do it. Then he went back. And then they practice it for a while. Then they get into a chamber with all this stuff on like that. And they can measure what this procedure does. They can actually measure it relative to other forms of meditation around the world. And it blew his mind, because the highest that he had ever recorded was about, and I don't know what this is reference to, because they don't tell me exactly these things, but the highest that he'd ever recorded was 700, and they did find somebody once that got it up to almost 1,000. But when he went back and did this procedure and the whole thing through, it went up to 3,500. And he came back to me and says, okay, I don't know really who you are or what you're doing on a lot of the levels, but what you're doing, we would like to really investigate this. And so he gave everything to me free, and just said, if you'll come in there, I really want to know. And I did it because I knew he was going to be checking me out, but I wanted the access to the equipment. I had my own agenda going on here. I said, sure, take me. And it saved me, because for 3 years prior to that, I was trying to find out where the place was in the roof of the mouth. And you read books and everything's like that. The angels were not telling me. They were letting me do this, and I could not find it. I didn't know where it was. And but in 3 days there, I knew exactly where it was. I did his training for the first 2 days. And then and it was things where, I was just going through his training. But then once I got it, how it all works, they're using sound in a totally black room. And they use sound because you can't use light, because that triggers the pineal gland back on. And they use very specific kinds of sound. And so and there's no entrainment. This guy's really against entrainment, where that's where you get something that is a machine that puts you into a particular state. Now they can do that, but when they're training, they don't do that. And so you're getting direct feedback from your brain at 350 times a second of exactly where you are, precisely how much you're putting in which quadrants, and you can know everything. And they're not telling you what to do with it. You're just learning how to create alpha, how to make it balanced, all these other things like that. And so on the third day, I said, okay, I got it. And it was 7 days long. I said, okay, I got it already. I know where we're going with this. And so I just popped out the Merkaba, put the beams of light, and turned them on, did this thing, got it all set up in what we're about to talk about, and then looked for that place. And I found it within minutes, because you're going, here's the sound going like this, and then you hit that one spot, it goes like that. And whoa, what was that? You go back there and you find that one spot, and so when I was out of my session, the session's about 2 hours, I opened the door, and the whole team is standing there going, "What did you do? How did you do that?" So I told him, well, this is on the tip of the tongue, the roof of the mouth, a certain spot, and all this stuff. And he puts a rubber glove on my hand and says, "Stick your finger in my mouth and show me." It's right there. And so they run out, put electrodes all over their hand, because this was a big jump for them. They'd never seen this before. And they all get in there, nothing happens. You have to be in your heart. These are scientists. You can't be in your brain, it doesn't work. And it took them a while to figure that one out. And so he was able to do it, but none of the other people were able to do it, none of them. And so he didn't understand the importance of that. So we've had a long conversation. He totally gets it now. But I learned so much from that. I'm so grateful for that happening, because I'd probably still be trying to figure this out. There supposedly is no... anything below the neck is biofeedback. Anything above the neck is neurofeedback. And there is no known neurofeedback in the world's entire research that lets you know when you're firing alpha. That's what they think. It's not true. And he knows this now, but it's not known in the world. Because what they know in India, and the meditators there, is that and they don't know what's going on. All they know is you have to sit there and meditate for days and days and days, and then years and years, and usually around 20, 30, or 40 years later, this thing happens, and which is you're sitting there meditating, and a green light appears inside your eye. It's just instantly. The whole field of vision has this green light inside of it. And the green light is the neurofeedback. It tells you when you're in this particular vibratory rate. When you get there in that spot, that's when you know. Now, the green light can sometimes be green-yellow, and it can sometimes be green-blue. And for some reason, most people I'm finding are toward the green-blue. Much more blue than anything else, but it's still greenish. And that is the secret key to higher consciousness, is this green light. It means that you've got a strong alpha production and that the 4 quadrants are balanced. And now they have a computer pops up every so many minutes with the 4 quadrants, and you can actually give they give you a readout. It tells you exactly, you're getting feedback on that way, so you can actually see precisely how much is in each one of your quadrants. And I had a low quadrant in my left. My 3 quadrants were high, but I had a low one in my left rear. And so I had to figure that out. And I figured out exactly how that worked, too, before I got out of there. The little bump on the back of the thing is divided into 4 sections, exactly like the brain. And it's a mirror image of it. I'll show this on here a little bit. If you want to stimulate this brain, you stimulate the quadrant that's appropriate over here, and that one goes up. And once I figured that out, I was able to take this and increase it over 3 times in one session by just knowing exactly where to rub on this thing. But that won't do you any good if you don't have the readout to know where the one is low. So, I mean, that's why that stuff is so... It would be so great if that could be like $100 or something. I mean, it would just accelerate everybody in here. Just it'd be like a slingshot coming out. It's so fast. But there's not much they can do. It just costs a lot because it.
Group discount.
It's still. It just really. It just. He can only take 5 people at a time, because each one has your own chamber, and those chambers are really, really expensive. And then it's the crew that has to monitor all. You're monitoring everything. You're monitoring heartbeat and rates and blood pressure and all the changes and all this stuff. Not just alpha too. You're going through gamma and alpha and theta and delta and all the various stages. All of it's being read out. It's all, you're looking at everything. You're looking at these patterns, 3-dimensional patterns that are coming off the brain. It's a lot of stuff. And from all of that, they can tell what's going on. And it's just one of those things, you know. I've had discussions with him, and we do know how to make it cheaper, but initially it would cost a couple $1 million. You'd have to create a 3-dimensional virtual reality program, which could then be put down into a single, like a Mac G5 quad, which is a supercomputer, really. And then once you do that, you would be able to, one single person they could map everything at once on this computer, and the computer itself can analyze what's going on if you had the right programs. But they don't have this. It's hard. I mean, for 3 years before that, of course, I didn't know what I was doing in those first 3 years. I didn't understand. The angels were the one that says, you got to put your tongue on the roof of the mouth, and you got to find this place and everything. But I didn't know what was going on. I had no understanding of that. And that's what almost, anybody going through Kriya Yoga, they don't know what's really going on inside of those levels. And so it's up to the instructor to get them to do that. And it still takes a long time, usually, before they really get good at this. If you can develop that, fine. Sure, all things are possible, but I didn't know how to do it. And now I've learned so much from this. It's changed everything in meditation for me, because now I know what I'm doing, and hopefully this will help me transmit this to you, so you could save many, many, many years and go straight for the point. And that's my prayer. Is what I hope will happen here before we get out of here. So where is the point? We got to figure this part out first. Then there's more. There's a lot more. But this is the first thing of where this thing is in the mouth. So if you're looking at the roof of the mouth, and this is the teeth, this is the roof of the mouth, here's the center line running right down the center of your mouth. There's a place here where if you go down your throat, on the top of the mouth going down, you have 2 kinds of skin in your mouth. You have the hard palate and the soft palate. And so if you put your tongue up on the roof of your mouth anywhere, toward where your teeth are, you're going to feel it's really kind of stretched tight, and it's smooth up in there. Now, if you run down the center of this, you'll keep going down, and some people's tongues are not long enough to do this. But if you keep going back, you're going to find that you have this soft, bumpy skin, which is called the soft palate. You feel that soft, bumpy stuff? Okay, if you're on soft, bumpy stuff, you've gone too far. You'll also notice, if you really start meditating with all this, there is a vesica piscis on the roof of your mouth. It's shaped like this. And right here, you're going to have another one right there. And this is the place you're looking for. It's varies in different people, anywhere from a 1/16 of an inch to maybe a 1/4 of an inch on from the soft palate onto the hard palate. And so this little spot right there is very narrow, where you've come off of the soft palate onto the hard palate, and that's the tip of that right here, and then the bump is right behind there. Okay? And so just from that little bit of instructions would save you years. A lot of people are up here. They're going onto the roof of the mouth up in here, and there's nothing there. You could do that forever. Nothing's going to happen. However, there's a little detail thing I want to throw out is that when you have teeth removed, it changes the configuration slightly. And where these teeth, where a tooth is removed, if you rub that area, it will also fire alpha. I don't know why, but it does. But it's not actually what you're trying to get to. And it's not strong enough to do what this does. You have to think of this as sex because it's very much like sex. I mean, you can't... the alpha is only fired, the stimulation is only happening while the tongue is rubbing it. The moment you remove it, the alpha stops instantaneously. It requires stimulation, exactly like sex. There's no difference, because it really is. And so the other thing is I'm going to blow this up right here. And this is that there, and it's divided into 4 quadrants. The brain is also, and this is the nose, so you're looking at a head from the top. And the brain, you saw this on another one, it has a reflection. No, this is the brain from the top of the head, and this is the nose. And this is this little bump right here. There's a relationship between this and the brain. And I just wanted to I just want to get this out because it was kind of a pretty important discovery. If for me, this is the North Pole looking down this way. Here's the nose, it's here. And this was my low quadrant, and I found out that if I massaged this quadrant diagonally across from here, this would cause alpha to be fired. If I just massaged only that quadrant would be where the alpha comes out of. And so I could switch it around. And so normally if you're trying to do the whole thing, you just keep moving it around, all 4 quadrants, back and forth or any way you want, but you have to keep moving it. There has to be a physical touch of the tip of the tongue on this point, or nothing happens. Well, it's about that long, usually, for most people. And you can do it. I did it, so you can do it. You can, but this information doesn't do much good if you don't have neurofeedback. If you don't have any feedback coming back, you can't really access that very well. But I just wanted to throw it out there because there might be researchers in here that want to go further with this.
I went to an alternative doctor once, and I have a little bump right in that location, and he said about 15% of the population of people have a little raised bump in that area. I think it's the area, and I'm not entirely sure, but in a group this size, there should be a few people that have a bump there.
Well, some people have a hole.
Yeah.
Some people have a bump, and some people it's flat.
And a liquid will come out once in a while.
Yes, that's right. We'll talk about that in a bit, too. It is a sexual thing. By the way, this is why, if you've ever noticed what babies do, when they get all cranky and everything, and they're crying and everything else, what do? They stick their thumb in their mouth exactly on that spot, and they got this smooth part of their thumb on there, and they start rubbing it and sucking it, and very quickly, usually they calm down and they feel good. And it's because they're firing alpha now, which is joy, and they feel great. And as long as they suck their thumb, they're fine. But the moment they pull it out, they're back again.
Where is it in relation to the uvula at the very back? Because I can feel that distinctly.
I don't know the names.
You know what? Is that the red thing? The little hangy guy.
Oh, way in the back of the soft palate?
Yeah, because I can feel that distinctly.
Oh, no. It's not on the soft palate at all.
So it's more...
It is on the hard palate.
On that edge, okay.
It's cool. Right on the edge where That's what I was trying to say, is that this is soft palate. After this little wavy thing, that's soft palate. This is hard palate. And you come back from the soft palate onto the hard palate, just a little tiny bit, and that's where the edge of the tip of it is. And the other thing is like I said, if you suck it, you can suck your thumb, or you can pull it down with your tongue by pulling it down. Then you can start rubbing it. But as soon as you start rubbing it, after a few minutes, it's going to swell up. It'll get big. And after about 20, 30 minutes, this thing is so turned on that even anywhere near it, it's not just on it, but you could even be way off to either side, and it doesn't make any difference anymore. It spreads in the whole area, on the back of the mouth, the whole area up in here becomes sensitive, but not for a while. He had me do. I was doing this for 3 hours a day. I would walk out and my tongue was. I couldn't even hardly talk. I was so tired. And in Kriya Yoga with Yogananda, a lot of times they tell them to do it all the time, as long as they're awake, to keep doing that. And I can't stay focused that long for any one thing ever, but and I can't imagine doing that. You'd have to have super muscle tongue after a while. I mean, you're going to see when you start doing this, a lot of people do it for 15 minutes and get exhausted. They can't, their tongue just sort of falls over, they can't do anymore. Yeah.
I did a little bit of a suction, create a little vacuum, and I could the little dimple, the little hole went up. I could feel then the impression of the palate and the soft thing real easy. And then it was right there. It's right there from that dimple forward onto the palate a little bit, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
I mean, if you just start massaging that one place right now, you'll see in a few minutes that the bump gets bigger and bigger, and it becomes extremely just the very, 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 very tip of your tongue makes that thing just keep getting excited.
I have 3 bumps now. What does that mean? I have 3 of them.
This is a new one. I haven't heard this one yet.
I have 3 of them.
Yeah.
I thought at first it was 4, but I kept touching them. There's 3, and they're all like in a circle right there. 1, 2, 3.
Maybe it's right together.
Yeah.
Maybe it just hasn't fully come out yet. It might not be fully expanded out yet. Okay, I think this is pretty clear. Let's go back to this now. So you're in the tiny place of the heart. This is the key. None of this will work if you're not. And there is a relationship between here and this tongue that goes up on the mouth. That then goes up to this area up here where there is the thymus gland. I'll just do it with dotted lines, kind of. They're toward the back, they're bigger. And the pineal gland is kind of nestled right in there, and then the chakras forward. And so this, the heart space, is connected through the roof of the tongue onto the roof of the mouth. From there over to here, begins to fire alpha. While you're doing that, the next thing that you have to do, you're waiting for this green light to appear. It hasn't appeared, so you have to keep doing this. Even when it does appear, you can't stop. If you ever stop, it's over. It's over in a half second. Everything. You've got to start over. But once you've got it going, you can start it back. You can stop. A lot of times you have to wet your mouth or you get dry or anything. You can stop, wet your mouth, and keep going. And even though it'll stop during that time, it'll start up instantly. Again, there's hardly any time lag. So you can stop long enough to stop dryness, etc. But The next thing that happens is the pineal gland itself, the actual gland, you have to put your attention on that while you're down here. You put your attention, you're assuming that these beams are all up and connected, and that's already taken place. And you're down here and you're rubbing this thing and you're exciting the alpha waves. While you're waiting for the green light, you have to do another thing, and you go to the pineal gland itself. Now remember, the pineal gland is an eye. Like I said, it's hollow, it has color receptors on it, it has a lens on it, but the lens is looking up. And with intention, you have to get the eye to turn and look out through this place. Now I'd like you to do this. Measure this, go up and find out and rock it over till you find that spot. That spot is where you're going to look out of. If you look out of any other place, this won't work. You have to realize that when you're closing your eyes, you tend to look out through this level of your eyes. But now you're going to be asked to not look out through this place, but look out through this level up here. That's another stumbling block that people sometimes takes years. They do the meditation and they're got their eyes closed, but they're looking out through their eyes, not through this place up here. It's essential. This is the reason why they also in Kundalini and Kriya Yoga, they have you slightly cross your eyes and look up. You're not just looking up anywhere, you're looking up at that spot. You want to cross your eyes and look up to that spot so that when you are doing what we're about to say, you look out through this place up here, because it will not happen if you look out through down here. Okay? Before the green light. You have to get this part going before you see the green light. So when the green light happens, you're ready for it. Okay? And you rotate the eye. Now, like to show you, like in the Great White Brotherhood, if you read their instructions, it tells you that in the pineal gland there's a flame of light. Obviously, they didn't know what they were talking about. And that you have to bend the flame so that the flame points toward this direction. Well, what it really is you have an actual eyeball there, and with your intention, just like with these eyes, where you look over here, you use the same intention that you used to do that, but you put your attention here, and with your intention, you get that eye to rotate and look out of this place. That's the next thing. Then there is another chakra point right here, right in front. And this one is connected to the pituitary glands. And that eye has to look at the pituitary gland. Once you do that, you're now in position, waiting for the green light. There's no sense in going any further, because without the green light, you can't do anything. And so once the green light appears, and it's usually just kind of fills your field of vision. Some people see it with blotches and stuff, but we're all different. But no matter how it appears, as soon as you see it, you continue looking from here to this point in front, higher than here, up here. And then what happens is, and when this happens, and when you see this happen, you will know this is happening. It won't be, did that happen? Or maybe, or what? It's absolute for sure, because the green light will, 90% of the time is going to do what I'm about to say, and then there's a few other exceptions. The green light will come in, form right before your eyes, and form a spiral. And the spiral will go from here, it'll go like this, it'll go and it'll lock on this thing here, and you feel it when it locks. It's amazing. It'll just spiral right in. It doesn't matter which direction it goes, but it's going to go and lock. And when it locks, there's one more step you do, just to give you the big picture. You have another chakra in space in front of you, out about there. That chakra point You actually have two more. You have another one here, and you have another. There's 5 channels that go up the body, and each one has 5 chakras associated with it, in each straight line. So there's another one back here, and there's another one out behind your head. Then we don't care about those right now. This one's out in front. If you want to know where it is, tip a thing. That's where it is in space, out in front of you. And so once you see that spiral come in and lock these two things together, with your intention, you look through the pineal chakra here to this one. It's really easy. That part's easy. It just takes a moment of intention, go through, connect, and it does. And when that happens, when these 3 are connected all together in this way, while you're in your heart and you're still rubbing your tongue, this sphere appears. And this whole thing begins to glow, and you have a halo. You'll be able to photograph it or see it. And James Hart has photographed this scientifically many times. And you are now in the exact place where Jesus was. Only he was there all the time, day and night. And at that point, you are in the position to be able to create anything. Not true. You are in the position to create certain things. I'll have to explain what I mean by that in a moment. But as long as you're sitting here, and this is going, and this is linked in here like this, your third eye now is wide open. And whatever image that you see here that you decide that you want, or if you're just being a channel and you're letting God move through you, whatever image comes there, it comes into here. It goes, once this is all linked, it actually first appears in this sphere around here, around your head, right around here. But the Leonardo sphere, the big one that goes around out here, the one, that one, passes through this same point up here in the 13th chakra. And this sphere, and that point, and that tube, and everything are all connected to this point. And the image first appears here, and then an instant later appears in the big one out around you. And that is where, that is all that creation is. Once it appears in this big sphere out here, it's in the outer world. It's an illusion. The whole thing is an illusion. But that's where the image actually is around you. And at that point, it is in reality. Unlike this way of creating, where you're creating from the brain, anything you get from here has to come to you logically. And you will find out how it does. But when you create from this way, using this, while you're in your heart space, there's no logic. You can have things appear out of nothing. You will see it happen. No one else in existence will ever know it happened. However, when you get beyond a certain size of creation, and I don't know what the prerequisite is where this size changes exactly, but it's pretty much anything that's kind of affecting you and your body, like you can heal yourself from this way, and you can affect small things that are around you, but the moment you go into things that are bigger, outside of your family, out and going out into the world, it requires 3 people, minimum, 3 or more. And it has to be 1 male, two females, or 2 females and 1 male. It's the thing that we talked about before, of making a human baby. It takes a mommy, a daddy, and the baby can be male or female. And so that this is how it works. You will see that this is really true, and when you do understand all of this, and you do it, and you see it's true, you're not going to be human much longer. Your time is, your evolution is just going to go straight up. You're going to go really fast, and very soon. And don't make a big deal out of it. I mean, it's not important. It's just another step of consciousness. It's it works because when you're in here, you don't have an ego here, and this eliminates the ego during this time completely. What happens is this, and it's kind of funny, but it's true. If you create from this other way over here, ego is totally involved in this, completely. But in this one here, when you're in your heart and you're bringing an image forth, normally if you're in a normal state of consciousness and the heart tries to bring an image to the surface, the ego says, no way, I'm in control, get out of here. And it won't let the heart do it, it just refuses. But when the heart does this and becomes male, and through the sexual energy of this and begins to fire alpha, and the brain goes into joy and pleasure, and these things are linked in there, the ego is so much in pleasure, it basically says, it says to the heart, okay, anything you want. You can have it, it's okay. And it allows it. Where it would never allow it normally, it will allow it under these conditions. If you're here permanently, there's no more ego. And anything you do is going to come directly into the surface. And that is the ancient way. This is how we always were. This is how we were before we fell. We lived in our hearts and we used our brain remotely. It was like a remote thing that we used, and it was a function of the heart, not. But we lost it when we left here and moved up to here. Then the ego was developed, and you can see what's happened. It's a catastrophe. It's horrible. Look at our world. We're just everybody's trying to kill each other because everybody thinks that they're more important than somebody else. Which is not true. We're all equal. Even in the spiritual hierarchy of the universe, the higher you are, the more you know that all people are equal. It doesn't matter. I mean, we look at people like Buddha and Muhammad and Jesus and people like this like they're really important people. They might be important in the sense that they brought something forth to us, but are they more important in the universe? I don't believe so. If there was a drunk in the gutter, totally smashed and drunk, he's just as important as anyone else. And because he has God in him, just like Jesus or Muhammad or Buddha or Lao Tzu or anyone else. And so these ideas of we're better than someone else is just a bunch of garbage. And it's what's caused all the destruction and pain and everything else in the world. If we were all doing this and we were living here, there would be no problems in the world. We know exactly what to do to solve the problems. We just don't want to do it. I mean, look what happened in New Orleans. That we didn't go in there and solve those problems because we didn't think it was because it was mostly a black place and a poor black place too. If it was a black Beverly Hills, it would have been different. And so it's the same thing all over the world. We just don't care because we only care about ourselves, and that is a brain function, and it's not normal. It's an illness. It's a disease. Yeah, I'm going to go back through the whole thing carefully. I just wanted this is to give you the overview of how this all works. Then we're going to have to go through it and practice it and go through all the various steps to get there. And then when we get it all together, we'll go outside in a beautiful place and do the final thing, and hopefully you'll be able to do it. Yes.
You said that your wife creates differently.
Yes. Well, no. This is all a male way of doing it. In other words, this is what actually happens. But a female doesn't have to know these details. She just has to understand the basics. And then a pure female can sit there and just say, okay, do this, and it happens with her. The whole thing just lines up and does all the things, and it works. But the male can't do that. He's got to go step by step by step by step. So the female can just look at the map and say, oh, I get it, and then arrive there very easily. So my wife does it all through imagery. Same way you get in the heart. I'm having us leave the brain, go to the throat, go down and move in, and that's a very male way to do it. she would just have you. I actually don't know what she would do because she, because she's really female, and she would have an image that you would step into, and before you know it, through just images, you would be in your heart.
Now, you said that with the ego created things that are different than the heart. So material things are not ego things? Like if you'd be creating things that are in a personal, for you personally.
Everything out here is just an image. It doesn't exist. It is just, it isn't even electromagnetic fields or all that stuff. That is just a part of the structural patterns that we have created to, it's more about how we arrange things in the order of space and time and dimension. But, I mean, we're very, very, very advanced people. We think that we're just a human beings, but we really are on another level of our existence. We're amazing. We're incredible. We have created this ability to create worlds and live in them. I'm speaking with a race right now that has created hundreds of thousands of these, and they know it. And that of other universes different than this one. And you can just go inside of these. They're put in different crystals. And you go inside the crystal and poof, you're in another world. But it's like a holodeck. It's the closest thing we have that's like what we're in. So you can get into the science or the physics of what the structure of the image is, of how it's arranged and everything. But from a female point of view, who cares?
No, my question was creating things that are to please the ego. If that's going to the heart to create things that are from the ego, that works the same way?
Well, I didn't quite understand it.
Okay, so if you go create money, you go create relationships, you go create stuff, that's ego creation, as far as
not necessarily.
If it's only pleasing you.
Well, still not necessarily.
No?
If you're using this technique, it's definitely ego, and whatever you create from there is going to be a problem, as we talked about before. If you're living in your heart, if you exist here, and you're not anywhere else, that's where you're existing, and you reconnect this back to the brain, there's no ego involved. I mean, in other words, this is what I meant by you can do it or not. Where are these things? I swear slides are so much better. Oh yeah, here it is. It's hiding in plain sight. Here you can either use attention or not, but when you're in the heart, if you're actually in the heart, when you're in that space, you don't have an ego, whether you realize it or not. You may pull images to you, but it's for the greater good of your family or all the people in life. You come from a different point of view. You know, you can still pull money. I mean, Claudette is amazing at that. I mean, she's pulled in unbelievable amounts of money. And she goes, I think I'll go make some money, you know, and she just sits down and there it is, you know. And, but, you know, she always does, she doesn't care about herself. She only does it for her family or for her animals. She loves her animals. And you'll see what I mean. But when you go down here and then you enter in like we did yesterday, but then usually within minutes we're right back here again because the ego pulls us back. But if you keep going down there, keep going down there, keep going down there, eventually the ego gets weaker and weaker, this gets stronger and stronger, and then that point happens where you have this orgasm that takes place and you are linked here at that point, and at which point it's really easy to do this. When you're doing it, when you're not fully established here, sometimes you even jump back and forth. How many people felt themselves doing that? You're down here and up here, and then you're back here, and you're back here, and you're going back and forth. And because you're really it scares the ego. The ego really resists you going in there usually, because it knows it's kind of like a separate being from you. Yeah. I'm sorry.
Sometimes in Kundalini Yoga, you're instructed to look how you instructed through the third eye, or sometimes through the back, and sometimes to the nose, and sometimes to the chin. Do you know the differences?
I haven't studied. I knew Yogi Bhajan, one of the instructors, but I wanted to go study with him on that. I couldn't do it because of the violence associated with it, and my heart just wouldn't let me do it. And that was one of the instructors I was supposed to go study with, and then I just couldn't do it. The Sikhs were attacked by the Hindus a long, long time ago, and in a war, and it ended up leaving 3 Sikhs left, and they just said this would never happen again, and so they've developed this fear that's within them. And so with Yogi Bhajan, you go and study with him, and you also have to learn how to kill people. You have to learn how to you basically learn how to shoot machine guns and throw hand grenades and crawl through this, just like military. And it's because they don't ever want to be, if they're ever attacked again, they're going to be prepared. I don't agree with that. And I'm not saying he's wrong or right, I just personally didn't want to do it. And because of that, I never was able to really understand the full levels of that. But I do know that he was involved with the chin. So you're saying that they rotate it to the nose, which is another chakra, or down to the chin, which is another chakra, or they come out the back, which is, you have 2 of these coming out the back. So you have another eye. You can turn this eye so it looks out the back as well as out the front. And I don't know what all that is about. I'm sorry. Yeah, I got it. Okay. But, I'd like to talk to you. And then the other thing is that when this green light turns into a spiral, there's other things it could turn into, just so you don't get shocked. The other one is that sometimes it'll make concentric rings. And it'll do that kind of thing. It'll and lock down. Another one is, and I've only seen this once, but I've had other people see it. It forms a mandala. Inside here is this really intricate Hindu mandala. This is what it looks like. And then a smaller one forms inside of that one. Same one, and then a smaller one forms inside of that one. And it does the same thing as this, only with a square. And there's another one that actually happens with me more now, where it forms a hole that is kind of like this. If you think of this as a tube going through, a tube is formed between here and here, and you see right through it, and you can feel it connect. There may be something else, but these are the only 4 that I've ever experienced myself, that I've seen. This one, though, from talking to lots of audiences, it's about 90% or more of all the people, this is what they see. It does this thing when it gets in there. This is what enables the creation to come forth. Usually, when this is set up, you're seeing this through the pineal gland itself, through the brain. In other words, people use the third eye with a brain function, not with a heart function, and you can do that. Just like you can create just through the brain, you can also use this third eye to create through the brain. What I've given you so far is the basics of this. And there is another whole area that I'm just going to talk about right now for a little while, but I'm not going to go into great detail because it's not necessary. In essence, this sphere is one of 3, and I mentioned this before. In the sacred geometry of the human body, when you can actually see there's 5 spheres that go all the way, but the center one and the top 2 form this pattern and a connection. I'm just going to describe it visually. So if you took another sphere that just touches this one, same size as this one, come like that through the body, and then another one that comes underneath here, the sphere that's under here is connected directly to the heart, the middle sphere, and the one directly underneath that is connected to primarily the uterus. So now when you see, when you talk about the one on the bottom, you have to talk about a male and female in sexual union and put them together. And then you and use both components, and then you have, but what it's focused on is the uterus within the female. And the heart has the ability, well, one more thing. There's an access point to all 3 of these spheres. And all 3 of them are basically a vesica Pisces, or a vagina. The bottom one is obvious. It is the vagina. And you can, and when you see there's 8 tubes that come out similar to this, and you really begin to understand what the penis, how it relates inside of those things, and it's the extension through the tubes itself. It's directly connected, and and with the heart, the opening to the heart is the solar plexus. But if you look at the actual physical solar plexus, it's a vesica Pisces, and it looks like a mouth in its opening. And it's another opening, it's another vagina opening that goes up into the heart. This is blocked in almost everybody. It's so rare to find anyone that doesn't have their solar plexus blocked. And that has to do with families and our weird situation with egos and everything now. But so the heart is sitting here, and the heart has 10 beams. It has this one also. And it's very flexible. The heart can choose. It can either go up through and connect with this upper sphere in this way, or it can go down and connect with the genital area and create in an entirely different way. It's another creation process that has to do with breathing and something that we're not even associated with this one here. And this, if you go down, that's the one that requires 3 people, and it's where you can actually create anything. No limit whatsoever. You can actually create a galaxy. And I've had this experience. I've seen it happen. It's amazing. And you can create anything at all. There's no limit. Absolutely none. Between the creation processes there. But the angels are telling me that that's not appropriate right now. That we don't need to create another planet. We just need to fix the one we're on. And that's what this does. This is pure creation. This is, I would say it's like adjustments. You can make minor adjustments within the creation through this. And so you can't create a planet up here. You can't do anything, but you can actually clean up the entire oceans in a breath, or 8 breaths actually. You could change everything in the world. You can do alterations of stuff. You can adjust things, fix things, but you can't do the big things. That requires the uterus to do that. And so when the heart goes up in this level up here, which is all we're talking about now, they want me only to focus on that because that's what we need now. When we get through this and we get into the 4th dimension, we're going to get a much taller body, a bigger brain, we're going to understand a whole lot more, and we'll know how to do the whole thing, and we'll be on another level. But all we need to do now is just get out of here and get into this other room, kind of, this other place, where everything from there on in is automatic, it's perfect, we don't have any problems at all. We just have to correct this mistake we made 13,000 years ago so that we can get back to living here, the power place and the creation place of everything. And there's, I could go on for days, really, and literally days, just on what's in the heart and what's possible through that. You guys you will discover it yourself, and a lot of it will come through memory. Because once you get back to this place, your memory is going to slowly come back, or maybe quickly, I don't know. But your memory is going to come back, and you're going to remember everything. You remember who you really are, where you came from, everything. And why you're here, what this is all about. And as we make these changes into the higher dimensional worlds, you're going to remember having made these changes before. That is all going to seem a totally natural thing. And so there's really nothing to be afraid of. There's nothing to be concerned about. There's nothing to be worried about. Everybody's going to make it, whether you want to or not. You're going to get there. And so the only thing you have to do right now is just do the best you can. That's all that is required. It's just the best you can, because the best that you can is perfect for you. And just do the best you can in this, and the best you can in everything else like that, and it'll all come about. No problems. Okay, you got a question?
Hi. This question isn't designed to challenge your abilities or anything like that, but if it's possible to clean up the oceans with 4 breaths or 8 breaths or whatever, why don't people like yourself or someone else in that consciousness, why don't they do that?
For me, this is not my job. I've done things that are pretty huge, but only because I was asked to from my higher self. But I'm not here to do any kind of changes. I'm only here to tell you something about yourself. And you're the one that has to do this. But I can give you examples. It's like, I don't know. It's like, this is sort of a stupid one, I guess. It's like how I got my house. I don't know if that's a good one or not, but some of them I can't talk about because they're stuff I'm dealing with that we've done really things that are global, that are stopping wars and stuff like this, but I can't really, I started to talk about some of that stuff. I'll just talk about this one. You can at least, it's a little thing, it's just a house, but it'll explain it. I was living in Payson, and I had a house there. We paid $240,000 for it, and I don't have a lot of money. I didn't at that time anyway, and we decided we wanted to move here. Well, you move here, that same house here would be close to $2.5 million, because that house was 4,500 square feet, I think it was, 3 stories high, with 2.5 acres, a horse ranch, and an unbelievable view, and it was gorgeous. And that here would be really, really expensive. So when we moved here, we had to downgrade, go up a lot in price and downgrade. And it was really difficult to do this because I don't want a mortgage. I just wanted to pay it off. And so we were looking at it. We found a house that we liked. It was $900,000, and it was much smaller and everything else. And but it was the same problem no matter what you did. They're all expensive here compared to where I was coming from. And so we finally, and this house didn't even have any, nothing on the outside. It was just dirt. It hadn't been completely completed. And so we went back home, and Claudette and I says, well, okay, that's it. We need to get that, but how are we going to do that? And I go, I don't know, And she says, meditation, let's go in. And we did this in meditation. It was only the 2 of us, so there wasn't a third component. But this is small compared, this is kind of personal, and it works on small things. And 3 days later, this woman drives up. We don't even have a for sale sign in our house. Drives up, knocks on the door and says, I really like your house. Are you willing to sell it? And my wife thought she was a realtor and told her to go away. She goes, no. She says, I want to buy your house. I'm not a realtor. And so they started talking. And so in the meantime, the house it was $899.99, and the guy was going bankrupt, and he dropped it to $750,000, which made it a little easier, but still it might as well have been $8 million. I couldn't afford it. And then so she comes up and says, we were just into the middle. She says, look, I'll give you a check for $750,000 right now. We will take that. Yes, we will. And so she was happy because she thought she was going to have to pay a lot more for it because it looks like a very expensive place, but she didn't really, I don't think she really knew what houses sold for over there. But we didn't have to appraise it or anything. She just wrote a check. And so we did, and I took the check back over, cashed it. It was real, and we went back to this place, put a thing down for it, and we offered them $740, and they took it, and the closing cost was $11,000. So it cost this house I have now cost me $1,000, and that was through meditation. Absolutely, it was through meditation. That's how we did it, and it's okay. Because of how we got it, it's not going to harm anyone. As we find out now, she has over 100 million. So that didn't mean anything to her at all. It was just what her heart wanted because she was into horses, and we had built a beautiful horse facility there, and it was exactly what she wanted. And so it didn't hurt her. It definitely didn't hurt us. And that's how we got into Sedona. And I use this for everything. I know that. In terms of you can struggle through life and try to make things happen, but if you live here and you just stay in this place, that whatever it is you need, you can have it. It's okay. You know, she went into. She decided that her son she wanted to move her son to Sedona. He wanted to move here, and so she did this again, and was. And then this guy from Russia came right after she did this. This guy from Russia came in and says, he would like to hire her at $2.2 million a year to do this thing like I'm doing here right now. And that provided all the money to buy her family a house here and move them up here and everything else like that. And there's no side effects from it like on the other one. This is totally harmless to anyone. But it's not just money, it's anything. If you have a disease, you can get rid of it. You can bring yourself into balance. You can change anything in your life, but that's still centered on you. It's okay to do this, but on the other hand, you eventually have to get to the place where you're going to use this for the world and for other people. And as you understand this is part of spirituality. When you really get this, you can't keep this for yourself. It's illegal. You can't be given something of this value spiritually and to just hide it. You have to use it for the good of all life everywhere. And if you do that, then you keep growing. If you don't do that, you will lose it. And so it's just the nature of the reality, but it's okay to do that, but eventually you're going to have to give out. That's why I keep doing these things. I keep giving to you because I've been given this. I can't keep it. I have to give it to you. And it has to go out. And the time's going to come when all of you, when you really get to this level and understand, you're going to have to go out and help others. It just is the way it is. But it's good. Giving is how you receive. And it's just the nature of the reality. The more you try to hold back, the more you don't have anything. The more you isolate yourself, and then you're poor and you can't move anything. I remember when I was first learning spirituality, and I was just connected to the angels, and I decided to give everything away. I don't know if I wrote about this or not. But I gave everything to everybody. I said, here, you can take this, you can take that, you can have this. And the final thing, I had this car, this RV that I was living in. And I said, well, I'm going to give that away too. And I remember when I gave the guy just couldn't believe it. He said, you're giving me your car? Yeah, take it, please. But every time I would give stuff away, I would get money coming back from some other way that I didn't, finally I gave up. I couldn't give it away because the more I gave it away, the faster it would come back. And it's just karma. It's just the way it is. But seldom do we have the courage to be able to step over into that world. We're usually so afraid that we're going to lose everything, or we're not going to be able to pay our bills or something like that, that we stay frozen in this place. It's like the monkey holding the apple in the jar. They won't let go of it, and they would be free, but they won't. And so most of the world is sitting around in that way. And even if they knew this, a lot of people wouldn't have the courage to be able to really step over into that totally free place where you're just connected straight through God to do everything. It does take, you have to become fearless. And that's why all the ancient ones in Egypt and the Incas and the Mayans and all of them, they've all done these things to, when they get the initiates that are going to this level, to become fearless, where you don't care if you die, you don't care. It's not about caring, it's just that you're not afraid to die, you're not afraid to step over into another way of being, because there's just you have to do it. It's 100%. You have to go all the way. And so, I hope you take this to the level where you could see that it's true. It's okay to experiment, and you can experiment on small things, little things that wouldn't hurt anything, and see it happen. Builds your confidence up, and then go for something a little bigger. But this is a case where size doesn't matter. I mean, in terms of I guess it does in terms of whether you're going down or up in this procedure. But up in this here, you can do small things or things that are bigger. But from here, if 3 people came together and they focused on the oceans and they were fearless in this state and they really understood what they do, they could get all the carbon dioxide out. They could bring the oceans back to the way they were in more recent times. I believe, and the angels have told me this is true, that we cannot ascend until we clean up the earth. We have made a mess here. We have done so much damage, so what are we going to do? Go to another planet and destroy that place too? We have to learn how the creation process works to be able to go to the other levels. But before we leave, we have to use this to bring everything back into a perfect balance. And then we can go. And that may happen over a very short period of time, like a day or two. Very, very quickly, the world gets it together, we understand, and we solve the problems. And then we choose to leave. Okay, yes? Excuse me.
Drunvalo, for those who experience that as technical, could you briefly tell us the female way to do that?
I'm not female, so it's really hard for me to tell you that. I wish my wife was here, because she knows more about this than most people in terms of how to do that. I'm sure there's lots of people that understand as much as she does, but she does have it down. And it's different. As much as I've tried to understand what she's doing, I still don't really get it. And, I still have to map everything out. It's just who I am. It's the way it is. But for her, I've told you, when I talked about the Blue School, I've told you about everything I know. And she does know how to use the images. But to her, you're just an image. Everything is just an image. And anything you create is just an image. It's just the idea, if you understand that the outer world and the body and the inner world and all of it is just consciousness. Reality is consciousness. Then it begins to make sense. If you think it's real, then it becomes more complex of how you change things.
So if you are
if you keep bringing yourself down to your heart and you feel that you're in your heart and you're step by step through your life and in the waking dream from your heart, and you're feeling the energy, the prana, and you're intending to connect with all life and do the will of the universe or the will of the connection in the heart, and you're aware of the basics about the Merkaba and the beams of light and the pineal gland, and that would be...
Well, there is something more that she does. She understands all that, but and I don't really understand what it is, because it's this. She's brought back the ancient world into modern times. So she's brought a way of being and thinking and perceiving from 6,000 years ago into the 21st century, and it's different. So whenever I try to understand, I've given up now. Because I don't understand how she uses these images the way that she uses them. It doesn't make any sense to me. I know it works. I could see that it works. I've had classes where I've had her. We used to work together for a long time. And I would start in with this, and then I would turn it over to her for a couple days. And she would be doing all this imagery work. When we do that, oh man, it's easy for me after that. It's just after that I could just fly, because the people get it on another level. Without her, it's much harder for me to do this. We were just talking about that this morning, actually. She was just saying this morning that maybe we should get back together and teach. But even if in a way, I think it would kind of be better if there was back-to-back workshops, because mixing those two things back and forth is kind of confusing for a lot of people. But if she gave a workshop first, it's better if she does it first and get everybody into their heart, and they know what that is and they're already there, then I don't have to do anything. It's really easy for me to connect everything back together after that. It's funny, because we haven't talked about it in a long time. We were just talking about it this morning at breakfast. Yeah.
I just wanted to say a thing or two about your influence on mankind. I mean, I know indirectly there's a lot of things that you can't necessarily speak on, but directly there's a lot of people that are using your work. A lot of people are giving you credit, most aren't. But there's so many things, especially with the Flower of Life and its work with electronics and just things that aren't really coming to surface, and it looks like you're just going to be another one of those people that most people won't really appreciate as much until they're gone. I mean, I'll speak for myself, like your influence with me in geomancy and body art, and I've just completely transformed my outlook on marking people based on your knowledge on the sacred sites and our influence on the planet, with it being its own organic structure, the Gaia theory and stuff like that. So I just wanted to thank you from the bottom of my heart, and you definitely deserve a lot more credit than you're given.
Well, but it doesn't really matter what does it really matter if we know who it was or who it wasn't that started these things? It's like almost everything. I was talking to someone. Almost everything that's going on today in terms of psychology didn't come from Jung or from Freud. It came from Wilhelm Reich. And Wilhelm Reich, you can trace almost every single thing from I can't even think of the names of all this stuff right now, but almost every single psychological process that's going on goes back to Wilhelm Reich. Yet, most people don't know that. They don't have any idea about that. But the effect is the same, and all that really matters is the changes that take place in people. I mean, I know, but I don't really care myself. I just... you got to do it. You're gonna be in the same position. You're gonna know all this stuff. You're gonna be doing this stuff, and then your higher guidance is going to come in and say, "Okay, you got to give it back," and you'll start either with family or starting out or teachers or whatever you do, and it isn't so much who it is or how it is. It only matters that we wake up and we remember who we are. And that's all that really matters, is that, really. Okay, I got to, let me quickly see the time again. Oh, it's 1:05? 6? We're late. Okay, we got to a good place right now. We're going to go to lunch, and when we come back, that's when we're going to start practicing everything, and then we'll go out and do the final thing.